Good morning, Softball America. We are back. It is Tuesday. I, Gray Robertson, would like to thank my co-host Tara Henry for allowing me to have a morning to just recuperate, recover, catch some Z's, and now we're ready to talk some softball. Hi, Tara. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hello, everybody. And I just want to say, on behalf of Softball America staff and the wider softball community, I'm just really happy that you and Tom are okay. I don't think people know the exact entire story of your trip from College Station back to Tuscaloosa, but I will say I'm just very thankful that you guys are both safe and okay. And I, it's the least we could do, just having the
Thank you.
show a day later. And hopefully it'll give some people some time to jump on here and just let us know where you're tuning in from. And be nice to Gray and tell him that you're thankful for him, because you do a lot, Gray. And even this morning I was thinking about how much you support women's sports, and I just appreciate you. And I'm just so happy you and Tom are okay.
Well, thank you. And if you want the full story, I'm sure it'll come up on the dirt or out of the box, because a 9.5 hour trip took 13 hours. Why was that? Well, we'll get there eventually. But we've got a lot to talk about on this show, Tara, on Good Morning Softball America. Coming up a little bit later, we will answer your questions about the top 25, so make sure you've got those in the queue. We will also chat with Jay Beachum, possibly the best hitter that the FGCL has ever seen.
Ooh.
The player that Tom and I called the preseason FGCL Player of the Year last year before she had seen a pitch. And then the National Freshman of the Year last year. And now someone, Tara, who's kept it up in her sophomore season.
Absolutely. So excited to have Jaysoni Beachum join us today from a red hot Florida State team. Gosh, Gray, I'm just so impressed with that offense. And we'll talk to her a little bit about what's different this year about the Noles, and excited to have her on here to join us.
We will also talk about a little bit of everything, but Tara, and we'll also show the chat. Chat's already popping. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. But Tara, what do the people need to do before we show who all's watching and listening?
Yes, so hopefully if you're over on YouTube, if you're not there, head on over to YouTube and get on the chat over there, because that's where it is popping. And make sure you subscribe and like the page. And then let us know where you're tuning in from. I see us saying good morning. Just let us know where you're tuning in from. I know Fang is in China. Thank you, Fang, for staying up pretty late to hang out with us this morning. And just excited to have you all with us today on a Tuesday. Very different.
Very different.
Talk about the Monday night mic'd up Monday night. Is that what it's called?
Mic'd up Monday.
Thank you.
I only do the read like 8 times on a TV broadcast, so.
So that'll be fun. But just, let's get into it. We got loads to talk about.
All right, we will start by saying hello to everybody. Fang, good morning. Tara and Gray checking in from China just past midnight local time, like you mentioned. Awesome. Andrew Petty, on my way to Olive Garden. Want anything Gray? Check out this week's episode of The Dirt, please. Cheyenne, good morning, friends. Yes, we're friends now. Sorry, shrug.
Love it.
Nick Tarina, hello, kids. We've got Lauren. We've got Julie up in here saying good morning. We've got Annie saying good morning. Cheyenne saying she was going to give me crap today, but guess not. Lots of stuff going on here. We got Nathan popping in with a Go Gators. We got Jeremy with a Roll Tide. We got Ray with Go Noles from Cairo, Georgia. And then a lot of people talking about Oklahoma, which is my segue to talking about Oklahoma. Because my first bullet point, we talked about this last week on The Dirt, actually. Somebody asked a question, when is OU going to take their first loss? And Nicole jokingly said, I don't know, maybe this is the year they don't lose. And I said that's impossible, because losses, when you play 60 games, losses find you at some point. And we had a lot of teams, not just Oklahoma, have losses find them this week. Some in more interesting fashions to more interesting opponents than others. We'll start with Oklahoma dropping 1 in Missouri. It's an interesting weekend for the Sooners where I have like 2 major takeaways. One, I will eat the Sam Landry commentary I've made in the past. Like, she's SEC ready. Whatever Jen Rocha did in the offseason to get her ready, and whatever mindset she's had since coming back from the little blip in the radar injury against South Carolina, she's been outstanding. And I thought the other pitchers threw fairly well too. Now Missouri is near the bottom in a lot of the offensive categories in the Southeastern Conference, but that's still a team with pop in the lineup. And so even though OU took a loss, I felt like I learned more good things about Oklahoma that kind of confirmed a couple feelings I have. And I think I've got a better understanding of what the Sooners are this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you take a look at Sam Landry, you can't give her enough credit for what she's been able to do, and the ability to throw complete games and to have such poise on the mound and really set the tone for the rest of the team, which is fairly young. And we've talked about this, Gray. And I think that's what is unique about Sam Landry. She's allowed them to be young, right? Bringing that experience in the circle. And I just want to shout out. I know the OU fans love to travel. And I just want to shout out a regular season record for the fans in Como with 10,229 over the weekend. Just second to the Duke Super Regional, but shout out to Mizzou, obviously snapping the 31-game win streak. And I think, Gray, I think this is a really big win for Mizzou to just kind of get the ball rolling for a team that we'd seen struggle. So when you take a look, I think we learned a little bit about Mizzou. And again, Oklahoma, yes, there was a loss there, but we also learned a lot there. And for me, and this is being nitpicky, and I know Coach Gasso, when she looks at those box scores, I think the 3 errors and the defensive miscues are the issue for Oklahoma, the Sooners right now, because they don't have very many errors on the season, Gray. And to do 3 in a week, 16 total on the season. So that's the one place to shore up. But gosh, just so impressed with Garcia and Parker and McEnroe, Marinas. Just they are so good at in-game, in-at-bat adjustments at the plate. And that's what makes them so difficult. You might be able to get them once, but twice, the third time, I think it's really tough for a pitcher to really go at that offense 3 times in a row. And again, a credit to that offense, to J2 Gasso, what he's been able to do. And again, just congratulations to Mizzou. I think that was a big win for them, and hopefully something to help turn that season around.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Nelly McEnroe Marinas. You know, based on the conference stats, she's probably, if we were power ranking, probably number 1 on the power rankings for SEC Player of the Year. Leading the league in conference play home runs, leading in RBIs. I think she's hitting about 500 in conference play, which is certainly good enough on that list. She's been really sharp. And that home run in the 7th and the 1 loss did preserve one of the craziest stats that Oklahoma has not been shut out since the World Series in 2019 by Montana Fouts. Like that, and a lot of credit to Sierra Harrison and Taylor Pennell for getting that close, because those were by far the 2 best performances I've seen out of them all year. But like, man, oh man, Nelly McEnroe Marinas, even though it wasn't in a win, that's still such a clutch play. And that's still such a very impressive play by somebody who this year is kind of figuring out how to play softball and actually, you know, participate in these games and truly make those plays in the big moments. And, you know, I again, not much changes in my head about Oklahoma. If anything, I'm even a little higher on them because I grew higher on Sam Landry this week, which is crazy. I know.
Shout out. Did we give a shout out to Sierra Harrison? Did you give a shout out to Sierra Harrison?
Yeah. Harrison and Pennell, that duo was incredible on Saturday.
Yeah. Incredible. So again, 31 game win streak. Wow. It's a lot of games. I know, obviously going into last season, but hats off to Mizzou. And again, we'll learn a lot about both these teams coming into next week to talk about. I love the chat. Oh my gosh, you guys are great.
It's popping. It's popping right now.
I wish we could bring everybody on the chat onto here so we could just all talk.
Well, we can do this.
We can do a little bit.
Did you know that we could do this? I'll show it. We don't have to keep it. But you can do this.
Oh, wow.
Do you want to keep that?
Yeah, for a little bit.
Okay.
For the most part.
Everyone be nice. Say good things. I see one cuss word. It's out. Okay. Losses find you. Here were some of the teams that dropped 1 game this weekend that I threw on the list. LSU, Texas A&M, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Mississippi State. There were a few others that I didn't put on. But were there any in particular, Tara, that struck you as surprising as that's not where I thought someone would take an L?
I don't know that anyone was surprised. I think this proves how difficult it is to sweep, right? So I think when we see a team sweep another team, it's pretty impressive. I think it's really difficult to beat a team 3 times. You know, I really thought Auburn was going to pull one out on Texas that second game. But, you know, I've got loads of notes. And Bama next is on the docket. I think we should just go through. I know I'm watching this.
Is Brady? We're getting to UCLA thing. Don't you worry. That's a full bullet point.
See, now you guys know what happens during the show because we'll start talking and Gray will ask a question and then the chat pops off. And I'm like so entertained because I love just watching the chat. But yes, let's go to Bama A&M next.
Okay,
on the list.
Sure. All right, let's dive into it. So I was there. You were watching. You and Brady were watching a lot. I was and we were communicating a little bit during the series. What did you think? I mean, this was an emotional, back and forth, very, very tight series from pitch one.
You know, I think the biggest storyline of the weekend was Emily Kennedy going to pitch, and it was odd for us to see her not until Sunday. And I think that was something we were tracking. I know Brady and I were chatting about it a lot. Would Kennedy pitch? And gosh, I think when you take a look at it, it was a lot of back and forth, and I know you were there, Grant. I know you've got your thoughts, but for me, Vandegrift, I know there's probably a little bias there because there's a lot of speed and power, but I'm just so impressed with her and how she is a catalyst for the Tide offense. And then Mac Barbara, Perez and Mac Barbara, seeing Mac getting it going there. I thought it was a really good series. Tough for Bama, I think, last week, obviously against FSU. And then this weekend against Texas A&M. Those are tough squads and a lot of fight. But again, coming out on the wrong end of those. And I think that's what's tough. But those are the type of games that you put in your back pocket. Right now, a loss doesn't feel that great. But those are the type of games that you can pull from as you get closer to postseason. And again, I think this is why you can never count Bama out in the postseason because of games like that, which showing that there is an ability to fight. Now, are there concerns? Yes, the free passes, and I know I talked about this last week, those concern me. Anytime you're allowing teams extra at-bats, when you've got multiple walks, hit by pitches, that is something that is easily shored up. And so for me, again, if that can be shored up, I think it'll be a lot easier to win ball games for the Tide. Go ahead, Gray. I know you've got thoughts.
Well, all right. So my understanding was Kennedy was going to throw game 2 if A&M lost game 1. Okay. My understanding is this was A&M trying something, and it worked ish. I mean, I will say Emily Kennedy did not. She looked okay. But even in the first few innings when she was getting, a couple 3-up and 3-down innings, it wasn't overpowering. And I felt like, I feel like when we've seen Emily Kennedy at her best, she's able to blow up by you. She's able to really create swings and misses. Alabama did not have very many swings and misses in that game against Emily Kennedy. And so that told me either A, the plan is really good, or B, Kennedy's just not as sharp, or both. Now, the comeback, the end of that game was nuts. The entire 6th inning was kind of a microcosm of Alabama's year in a way. They showed the grittiness in the top of the 6th, and then in the bottom of the 6th kind of gave it right back. Alabama's now allowed 33 6th inning runs this season and scored 36 6th inning runs. So you've got to figure out how to close these games. A&M did a great job taking advantage of things that Alabama did not this weekend. If A&M got a walk, she came in to score. And that's something that a lot of teams have sometimes struggled with. But A&M did not this weekend. And to the Mac Barbara point, I haven't updated it through Sunday, but I know going into game 3, I think she was hitting 326 on the year and 390 against ranked opponents. So she's been at her best in the biggest games against the best pitching that she's seen. So a lot of credit there. And I thought it was a really even series. I left each day thinking like those are two teams that I feel like are pretty even. And I felt like it was back and forth. And I think the games kind of reflected that. It was a lot of fun. It was a really, really fun weekend at Davis Diamond, and good softball. And sometimes it's all you can ask for. It was It was really intense. I mean, each game was really intense.
I know that was a really intense weekend for you, Gray. My question is like, what about the pitching changes? Like, obviously you're there in it. Like, you've watched this team every game. What are your thoughts on those pitching changes? Because from watching it and viewing it, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is interesting. We've got, Johnson coming in here in this spot in a really tough spot again. So thoughts on that?
I think that Alabama is still trying to figure out who belongs where, because a lot of the evidence of the season suggested that Ailey Johnson was really, really good in relief coming in with a clean inning. And even, you saw the game on Wednesday against Florida State. Even after the home run, after that, Florida State, I don't think had a hit. I mean, I think maybe the walk was either right before the home run or right after, but every other batter, Ailey Johnson mowed them down. So we've seen this year when Ailey's in a clean inning that she's been able to handle things. So in the bottom of the sixth, you've already pulled Brisky, Caitlin Riley giving up a run, Winstead giving up a couple runs. It's not like anybody else was super lights out. In my mind, I agreed with it. It makes sense. Hey, clean inning. Let's have Ailey come in and see what happens and see her utilize that changeup and see if A&M can adjust. The thing that didn't work was A&M was sitting the hard. So they were letting the changeup go by, and anything hard, that's what they were attacking. There was one Maya Perez single that she kind of got jammed on, but because she's so strong, it was basically just a line drive to left. So I did not disagree with the pitching change of a time. It just, unfortunately for Alabama, didn't work. And that's something that I think this coaching staff is still trying to figure out which piece goes where to try and finish out some of these games. Because also at that point, A&M had seen every single pitcher already that weekend. So it was going to be hard kind of no matter who you went to in that moment.
Yeah, and to put a bow on Texas A&M, Alabama, I think the Alabama fans are going to just have to rework what kind of team this is. It's more of an offensive team, so there's going to be runs scored. And I think the Tide are used to having one dominant ace in the circle, really, low run ball games, and that's just not the case this year. And that's okay. Like, this offense is fun to watch. For me, I'm so excited about the offense. And again, if you can shore up on the pitching, and I think that's going to help. Let's move on to LSU, Georgia. This chat is hysterical. I love it.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up.
Tommy's here. I love it. Hey, Tommy.
All right, let's talk a little bit about LSU, Georgia.
Yep. Like
you said, LSU came out like gangbusters to start this series, and then Game 3 just kind of fizzled. And yet I don't really have a ton of concern about this current iteration of LSU. Now, the one thing that I do have a little trepidation about is it's kind of about this time where LSU kind of hits a bump and like starts to fizzle a little bit in the past. So I would not think, based on what I've seen, that this team is going to have that issue. However, it's all going to depend on how these next few performances look, because it just all kind of happened and snowballed very quickly on Sunday after LSU had been quite dominant in the series.
Yeah, so LSU with the 5-3 win and then a 10-2 win. So run rule win on Saturday, and then Georgia turns around and run rule win on Sunday, 11-3. And we're just seeing, there's a couple questions in the chat, but when Burzon, again, we saw Georgia get it into Burzon, and the ball doesn't normally leave the yard when she's throwing. And I think that was a good sign for the Bulldogs that they were able to put up, 8 hits and 9 runs on Burzon, who had done really well on the Friday start. But Jayla Lassiter, what an electric home run. I was fired up. I don't know if everybody saw that photo that's on social, but I was fired up about that. Again, Jaden Heavner in the circle threw pretty well. The walks, again, I think this is a big theme for me this year. The walks, 7 walks, but doesn't give 2 hits. Hey, a lot of swing and miss stuff as well. So again, LSU making a statement in those first 2 big wins. And then I think it was a good momentum for Georgia heading into next week, because we'd seen that offense struggle.
Yeah, the Georgia batting average in conference play, I believe, was at 210 going into Sunday. That is totally off memory, and it certainly has improved. So, boy, the chat, y'all are going crazy over there. I don't know what's going on. Nathan, Tommy, please, let's keep this civil, everyone.
I mean, we're going to have to take the chat down if people can't stay on task here.
Oh my gosh. And yes, Nathan, Athens, Georgia is the host location for the SC tournament, and I cannot wait to
KJ.
go to insert restaurant here. Oh, Karen's here.
Yes, KJ.
Wow.
We need KJ in the package. I mean, come on. We need to get her on here, actually.
Send us, yeah. Do you want me to? No, Beachum's coming on in just a minute. So I still have questions about Georgia, but sometimes when you've got a young team, everything just all comes together. And Sunday, it all seemed to kind of come together against LSU. Yeah. I do not have any present concerns about LSU, but the historical concern kind of looms. And I would like to see LSU kind of just prove that this was totally just a random blip, one of those days, flush the tape and move on, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I'm not concerned either. But yeah, hats off to Mo Williams, grand slam. That ball was crushed. Mm-hmm. That was impressive. So again, LSU, Georgia. Moving along here.
Yes. we'll keep trucking. Arizona State. Arizona lost getaway day. Otherwise, it was pretty standard. They were pretty much in control of the first two games and looked pretty darn good doing it.
Yeah, I think there were some fun storylines, but so Amber Freeman going back, obviously a 3-time All-American at Arizona State, coaching now for the Wildcats, and then Bloomer, who was with the Wildcats just a season ago, coaching now the Sun Devils. So that was fun to keep an eye on. Stoddard and Nets just getting it done for Arizona, and really just, again, plugging along. Kenzie Brown, a nice James, thank you. Oh, for Beachum. Awesome. James with a super chat, and you guys can see it. Thank you again for being here, James. And getting it done for Arizona and a good solid win. Almost got that sweep, that 7th inning. Almost a comeback there for the Wildcats, but good showing from Arizona State, a team that beginning the season I would have said, and I think we're seeing Megan Bartlett doing some nice things there with the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I think Arizona State is certainly I think Arizona State is certainly a tournament team. Nick Torina, no. This is
I'd like to see that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
If it's Saturday, I think that's the day we wear white, so I really can't have blood on the white shirt. We need to do on the Crimson Day if Nick's gonna sock it to me. Yeah. That way it'll blend in.
Tuscaloosa?
No, Alabama goes to Baton Rouge.
That's right.
Yes, Final Four weekend. So it could be a very busy weekend in sports.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it will be, but it could be busy for some of us.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay. Oklahoma State drops 1 to Baylor. So Baylor has really struggled this year. The pitching has been kind of tough.
Lily Walker.
But Lily Walker, I nominated her for Star of the Week this week because I was like, she shut out Oklahoma State and had them until was it the bottom of the 8th in Game 3 when Oklahoma State walked it off in the Amanda Hassler home run. So Lily Walker was excellent. That's some of the best pitching Baylor's had this year. And Oklahoma State, to their credit, on a weekend where they did not play all that well, found a way to win the series. And that is not an easy thing to do. Winning is hard. And the Cowgirls found a way this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Ruby had to pitch in all 3 games. That's the one thing that I've noted. Oh my gosh, the chat is just great. I'm glad that we have it up here.
9. No. Thank you, Fang. 9 innings.
Thanks, Fang. And obviously dropping that first game was going to see how the offense responded, right? We're keeping track of Oklahoma State's offense, 9-5 win and then a 2-1 win in extras. But it's really a combination of Ruby Malin and Katie Coots right now in the pitching staff for Oklahoma State. Again, can't say enough about Megan Delgadillo at the top of the lineup there for them. And I think we're going to see that offense start to get going. But again, that 1-0 loss to a Baylor team, which you said, Gray, is having trouble pitching in the circle, is something to keep an eye on, that Oklahoma State offense.
Yeah. By the way, Nick, I will gladly meet you at a tailgate. I'm good with that. Let's get some boudin and let's get all the Cajun cooking. I'm down. We'll do some content. Let's go. I'm ready. That could be any day of the week. Saturday, 3:00. I'm down.
His whole mood just changed. He thought that Nick Torino wanted to fight you, but you realized that he wanted you to come to the tailgate.
He wanted to just give me food. That's very LSU. That is pretty much the definition of LSU. All my trips to LSU have either been worried about getting in fights or getting food. Don't even ask about the football game I went to my freshman year. Boy.
All right, Mississippi State Northwestern. Let's keep going.
Yeah, boy, it was a tale of two games and then another game that happened. Mississippi State destroyed Northwestern. I think combined it was 27-3, 27-2 in the 2-run rule games, and then Northwestern won the middle game 4-2. I think it kind of shows where I feel like Mississippi State is. There are some days where it is all clicking and all there, and when that happens, they're one of the toughest teams to beat in America. And then there are some days where they can get got. You know, that loss, Sierra Sacco, was 0 for 3. And if she's not cooking, then it's very hard for that offense to get cooking.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gray, up and down there. But again, this is a series, so Northwestern, I think this says more about, Lauren Boyd and Northwestern's ability to bounce back. But Kiara Sells with a grand slam and a home run. Raylan Chafin, I know they got into Chafin a little bit. And Delaney Everett getting some good solid innings. So again, a Northwestern squad that has had a down year, to be honest with you, Gray. And for them to get that win, another big win for the Wildcats after struggling. But I'm excited to watch this Mississippi team against Texas this week, and I know that's going to be later in the show, but a little gritty, scrappy, and we'll have to watch and make sure that Coach Ricketts is still wearing an actual cap and not a visor, and see if that's still plugging along.
Yeah, hat game strong, Coach Ricketts. Hat game strong. We love it. Keep it up. All right, I'm going to save the next bullet point because our guest, Jay Beachum from Florida State, will be joining us. So we're going to talk about some of the teams who did not lose this weekend. Losses did not find them. I do want to talk about Texas Tech, South Carolina specifically before we talk about Iowa, UCLA. This was another series where we came in kind of wanting to find out more, right, Tara? More about South Carolina, more about Texas Tech. What do you feel like we learned from the Gamecocks taking the first two games and then Texas Tech winning a, frankly, bamboozlingly wild Sunday matchup between these two? I don't know if you saw what happened in the first inning. It was off the rails from there.
Well, I think for both squads, I think with Nyjah not in the circle, and I think this is the case with a lot of teams across the country, we're seeing some issues. But I'm continually impressed with South Carolina. And I think at the beginning of the season, if you would have said what has transpired throughout the season thus far, I'd have said you're crazy. But they're finding ways to win. They're playing free. The offense is fun to watch, and all without Rhodey as well, who is such a huge piece to that offense. I enjoy watching the Gamecocks, and I think they're a fun team to watch. And Sam Gress really having a nice weekend in the circle. So for me, I can't say enough about South Carolina and what Ashley Justine Woodard has done there in her first season. And for Texas Tech, I think I say this every other week about Jerry Glasgow. You kind of scratch your head sometimes with some of the losses and what happens, but he always figures out how to get his teams there in the end and make a run in regionals and supers, and they figure stuff out. So for me, again, I think more question marks about Texas Tech than anything for me. I don't know. How about you, Gray? I love Brady's Bo. Hey, Bo.
I think Fang is right. I think Texas Tech is going to be traveling for regionals, and I think they might be going to Oklahoma or somewhere in that vicinity. Maybe Texas. I don't know. My concerns. There's been like 1 week, really, maybe about 4 total days this year where I've watched Texas Tech and been like, oh, okay, maybe my concerns are off base. And then I watched them again. I'm like, nope. I think we've kind of nailed it, because Nicole Mendez and I have been on the same page very much about Texas Tech, and it's very much. I feel like an adventure each and every day. The pitching behind Nyjah, the inability to score in the Nyjah game. It's just. I'm still just waiting to see, because I get it. I get it when you say Coach Glasgow is going to get them there 100%. Yes. I understand why you're saying that, but I'm waiting on like any type of evidence. Because again, as we talked about in the preseason, it's very hard for programs, not coaches, programs to arrive suddenly. And my concerns remain for Texas Tech. And this would have been a great opportunity to kind of stick into the SEC, kind of make a bit of a statement. And, things kill me.
Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying, Greg.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Jerry Glasgow, Nyjah Kennedy, like full stop.
Like, okay.
With those two, to me, I'm like, I do not want to face either of them in a regional. I just wouldn't. So for me, that's me. I know that you still need to see some things. For me, I don't need to see anything else.
Okay. We can debate, but that would kind of be disrespectful to our guest who just showed up.
She's here. Yeah.
She's here. I know. We can start doing the chop and all that and everything. That was sloppy, but I'll take down the chat.
Okay.
Sorry everybody.
The chat is popping.
Y'all are nuts out there. And speaking of nuts, we're going to talk about her college career a lot, but I would like to heap praise on the Summer Collegiate Softball League accolades of one Jay Beachum from Florida State, because one summer when she was with the Squeeze, she only played on the weekends and was out here with an OPS over 2,000. She was slugging, she was driving in runs, hitting bombs and pitches in the other batter's box, and that was the moment where we were all like, oh my gosh, this kid. And now she has proven to be this kid at Florida State. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Beachum from FSU. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk with you because I have had so many questions since I first found out about you in the FGCL and watched your highlights. I was like, oh my gosh. Where does some of this natural ability come from? Because when I watch you swing a bat, you have so much talent and the ability to get to any pitch at any spot.
I mean, probably my grandma. She played back in her day, and that was back in the times where they were playing like with no gloves and things like that. So relying on pure athleticism. So I'm gonna say her probably. I'm gonna give her the credit.
Oh, I love that. And Jaysoni, obviously this year you guys started in Mexico. I was there. I got to watch those games. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and what it was like to go down to Puerto Vallarta for the team and you?
Yeah, Mexico was really fun. I've never been there before, so it was a beautiful atmosphere for sure. Great competition down there. We learned a lot as a squad, grown a lot. And yeah, it was really fun and glad we had the opportunity to go down there.
What about this week? What did you learn this week? Going to Alabama, always a tough place to play. Going to Duke, a place that has seen their program rise so much the last few years, and to go 4-0. What did that show you and your teammates about what is possible the rest of this year?
Yeah, it definitely showed what we're capable of doing for the rest of the season. Going to Alabama and Duke, both great atmospheres. The fans there is just very electric there. So going to both of their home fields and getting the opportunity to play there was a great opportunity for our team, but also to going in there with a game plan and executing our game plan and making a little adjustments as quickly as possible. And I think we executed that very well.
And Jay, I know that I've seen you this winter in Georgia and you work out here and you talked about executing. Can you kind of give some of the young athletes that are maybe watching this an idea of what your work looks like and how you prepare in your process? Because to me, I think that's something that's so cool about you is you're constantly and continually working. But what does that look like to you to get to the, to the degree that you had and have all the accolades? But again, it comes back to the work.
Yeah, definitely preparation is key. but also too finding what works for you. So I found what works for me, but every athlete is different. So finding that process early on and then continuing to stick with that, and just when you go into games, just trusting your training and leave it all out there for your team.
You and Issa Torres have locked down the left side of that infield. Y'all are so fun to watch, constantly making plays. What's it been like for the two of you to kind of form that bond over these last 2 years?
Yeah, Issa, she's great. I mean, just by you saying her name, put a smile on my face. She's so much fun to play with. But yeah, we just have like a great synergy over there. Just knowing that any ball hit over in our direction, we're gonna make a play for our team. And just, like I said, she's just so much fun to play with, and I love competing with her to my left side.
And last one for me, but the energy around this team this year is just, it's electric. Y'all are so fun to watch, especially the offense. What do you think there's been the biggest difference between last year's team and this year's team?
Yeah, this team is a lot of fun for sure. They're definitely my sisters. I think of them more of my sister than my team. But I think just putting in a lot of hard work in the fall and the off season, and that's been our foundation. And like I said, we started in the fall. We knew what we wanted to do in the spring season, so we started thinking about what we wanted to do for the spring season and the fall, so that way once we got here in the spring that we could start as quickly as possible and then make quick adjustments rather than maybe going into a lull into the season. And I think that's been working out pretty well for us, so yeah.
Individually, how are you able to kind of keep it going? Because we've covered a lot of freshmen in this sport who've had great freshman years, and then they hit the quote unquote sophomore slump. And you've still kind of been just rocking and rolling here this year as a sophomore. How are you able to kind of mentally make sure that aspect doesn't really come into play for you?
Yeah, I mean, going into my freshman year, coach always talked about the game doesn't know whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, and I think that still applies this season. Like, yes, people might have video on me, but we have video on them too. So continuing to trust my training and make quick adjustments, and just going out there and at the end of the day having fun with my team.
Absolutely. I also just one more. I have to ask an FGCL question. How much did that help you as a rising college freshman, getting to go against some of those college pitchers and having as much success as you did? Because thumbs up, viewers out there, I kid you not, like this young lady had one of the farthest home runs I've ever seen in my life on a changeup in the other batter's box the summer before she was in college.
Mhm. Yeah, FGCL, it prepared me a lot. I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to do that, and I'm grateful that I did take the opportunity. But yeah, it prepared me a lot. And for other people out there that's watching this, I think FGCL is the way to go if you want to get more opportunity and work on your game.
I love that.
I love that free publicity. Um, Jay Beachum, thank you so much for taking a little time to join us here on Good Morning Softball America. It's great to meet you. I've been impressed. I've been a fan for years. Keep on crushing it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That is the great Jay Beachum from FSU. Tara, I'm going to let you talk for a little bit about Iowa UCLA because I know that a lot of people have some thoughts about that 2-game series and how that went down.
Yeah, so it was a 2-game series. There's got some interesting scheduling, I would say, this year in the Big Ten. I think obviously there's a lot of shuffling going around with the conference realignment, but it was just a 2-game series. So Iowa splits with UCLA, and two home runs, Sue Berry against UCLA to get the upset win. What a performance! And an Iowa team that has had some issues this year and really had to really kind of dig deep with some coaching changes, 3 or 4 coaching changes to see to get that win against UCLA. Really, really impressive. I know for the Bruins, it's going to be a tough road schedule for them. And Gray, if you've got to go, you can head on out.
Yeah, I have to go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Are you going to keep rolling?
I'll keep rolling. So, Gray,
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Gray's going to be leaving us and I'll just carry the rest of the show. If anybody, I've got the chat going on, so we're good. Thanks, Gray.
Thanks, partner. Sorry, I got to go. Thanks, y'all.
All right. So Gray's got some stuff he's got to deal with that he's got to go. And I'll just finish off with Carlin Pickens, other big news of the week. Carlin Pickens breaking the world record for fastest pitch at 78.2 miles per hour against a really tough Arkansas squad. Was really, really impressed with Arkansas this weekend. But the Tennessee Vols coming out and getting that win in Game 3. Congratulations to Carlin Pickens. Brady, let me see if we can send Brady this link. We'll get Brady to hop on here. 1 second. So we can get the chat going too. Let's see if we can get you guys up here. Greg, can you send the link to Brady? Baylor's asleep, so Brady's going to join us. I think I just sent him over the link. All right, so Carlin Pickens, and then another sweep of the weekend, Stanford, Notre Dame. Stanford's on an 11-game win streak at the moment. There he is, Brady. 11-game win streak, and hey, Brady. Oh, he's fixing, I think, his mic. And then Oregon, another sweep. I know we were talking about sweeps, Oregon and Illinois. Brady, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
There he is.
Get the AirPods in.
Bo Nose has joined us. This is a special treat, everybody. Let's welcome Brady.
You can all thank my son for randomly passing out on the floor while he was playing.
Brady, thoughts? I know you've been watching the show. Thoughts?
Just overall thoughts?
Yeah.
Not specifically.
No, I mean, you're talking a lot in the chat, so I know they can see that, but just specific.
Well, I'll save my ACC and SEC thoughts for the site on our power rankings. Basically, I kind of go team by team, just so everyone knows that. But yeah, kind of just jumping in, just like I think this is a really big week for Stanford. They're kind of just obviously they have the Texas win, and they're kind of just hanging around beating the ACC teams they should probably beat. But this week's going to be big for that pitching staff, for Kylie Chung and for Zoe and Alyssa Houston. I just, you visit Kentucky, who's swinging pretty well, just took the series from Old Miss, and then you have to face Virginia Tech's offense. And so it'll just be kind of interesting because I think this is going to be the toughest test for them lately, and really kind of prove they're part of like the top of the ACC.
Yeah, and let's go to a couple of check-ins. I know Gray and I have gone back and forth here. We talked a little bit about Stanford, Oregon. How about the freshman list that's now up on the site and Riley McCoy, Brady? Let's just give her some love because she's hitting 452 with 11 bombs and at 1,500 OPS.
What's crazy about that too is she missed a couple games and she wasn't even like starting right away too. She missed like the Florida State games with like an injury, but yeah, that's like low-key been a freshman class that's just really, really stood out. I mean, Emma Cox has kind of missed the last couple of weeks, but she had a good start, and then even Stephanie Maki adds a good piece to that. But yeah, Riley's really taken off. But it's just funny how like Michigan and Washington, you have Lauren Butz and Alexis DeBoer also, and you just three slugging first basemen. Do you want to give some love to Ella Harrison at Rutgers? That's a really, really young Rutgers team. She's leading the country in innings, and she's pitching well. And so it's just the record might not show it, but it's a growing thing, and have a ERA of 2 with 117 innings, like that's a legitimate ERA.
Yeah. Let's do a vibe check now that we've got you on here. I think this is going to be fun. We're going to do a March check-in with a few of the teams. I've got a list here. Maybe just a couple thoughts on Duke vibe check.
I don't know. It's so tough to say. Obviously, they did pulling back that Saturday game, but rather than that little comeback, like they felt outclassed all weekend. It was very odd because I thought they had good momentum and they handled the Liberty doubleheader well, but they just cannot perform that well in the series play. Like they ended up taking back the Clemson series, but they just have to figure out something. They have to have Cassidy either develop something with changing up speeds a little bit, because she's kind of figured out at this point after that Mary Nutter run. Like it has just been awful to say. Danny's been solid, but I mean, I don't think that's anyone you ever wanted to be your ace. And I think so the plan's just not working for Duke. And like coming into the season, Duke couldn't rely on its offense. There was going to be too many moving parts. And then you're really not getting enough out of Jennings and Gold to even kind of like do that. And I know people bring up the wins against Florida and UCLA. That's a month ago. Like things have changed drastically. Like this is not the same Duke team. Cassie Curd is not the same pitcher right now. Like that's what we have to take in is like, you know, we use head to head, like to kind of break ties in our poll. But like once we get like a month out from them, like these change and adapt. And like when there's more film and like, that's the thing is like when you get in these tournaments, like it's so hard for teams to prepare for each individual pitcher and have this game plan compared to these series. And like, I think that's the thing is like South Carolina series, Duke struggled. Like they won the Clemson series, but Clemson's still a young team. And like, that's probably still a series Duke should win. But if they're going to kind of get back to the top of the ACC, like they have to figure out something in the circle. I thought the freshman Haley Schuler, I think it is, I thought she had decent innings since Florida State, and maybe that's the pathway. But right now, it's just there's not a lot going on that's very good at Duke, and they just quickly have to figure it out. But I know the schedule in AC gets a little bit easier going forward.
Yeah, so we're going to go through a few. That was Duke. And if you guys have top 25 questions, please submit them in the chat right now so we can get to those in a second. Y'all are very quiet this week. It scared both Brady and I. I don't know what's going on, but we're normally we're used to getting yelled at, and our mentions and comments were way down. So if anybody has any top 25 questions, please put them in the chat. It just reminded me, Grady, when you were talking about Clemson and how Clemson isn't in the coaches poll, and we're just wondering why. But I know we've spoken about that, but Clemson is not getting a ton of votes in the coaches poll, and that made me think of our top 25. So again, top 25 questions, please put them in the chat if you have them. So you can jump on that, or next vibe check is Liberty, Brady, which I've been impressed with Liberty thus far. I know it's up and down. I think Rachel Root is just an incredible athlete there. And Brady is right on tournament play versus series. It's really difficult to prepare for a series versus a one-off game. Go ahead, Brady.
You know, Liberty is, I thought that maybe they had the chance to be kind of like a team that, like, to be the mid-major team that kind of tests for a host. I don't think that's going to happen. The non-con schedule is not as tough as it has always been. I don't think the pitching has been as high level again in those top tier games. They don't have the top tier wins. I thought like the way Duke was pitching, I thought they would at least split one of those series. The issue with Liberty right now is they're winning the games they should be. They took a good game against a solid North Carolina team who will probably make the tournament. They are having trouble fielding, which is very odd for a very veteran team. I think they're like 8th or 9th in Conference USA in fielding percentage. And they had a lot of errors in that first Duke game, and it kind of got away from them because of that. And so that's kind of that thing. But to your point, like they hit well. Rachel Roop, like she's a great hitter. She very well, maybe she's a Gold Glove caliber right fielder with the arm and the glove. And so I think they're going to be that really tough number 2 regional team, and they have the pitching depth they get through a regional. It's just if they can kind of put it together against the top lineups, and there's going to be plenty of hosts around them, so it'll be kind of interesting like where they might end up again.
All right, that's Liberty and the vibe check. Let's do one more, Nebraska, because I think at the beginning of the season, Brady, I know we were going back and forth on Nebraska, and you can share what your thoughts on Nebraska were at the beginning of the season or not. And I think after this past weekend, maybe your thoughts have changed, maybe not, but would like to hear the vibe check coming from Nebraska Cornhuskers.
So beginning of the season, I asked the question of who is the second best player on Nebraska behind Jordy Ball. I think that's pretty clearly been Ava Cusack. Now, if we want to move that question for number 3, I think it's still valid. They have to find something in the circle. outside of Jordy, and even Jordy has had a few kind of issues, a tough game against Missouri, and then just a poor outing against Ohio State, but that might be more indication on just how good Ohio State is. I mean, Jordy Ball, the hitter, has still been crazy. You can still kind of like definitely put her in the front running of like player of the year, just how she's kind of carrying that. And, you know, they handled Minnesota quite well, but this Minnesota team has just struggled. They've struggled to pitch. They've struggled to hit. Like, it's just not been good for them so far. And so I think Nebraska will handle who they can handle in like the Big Ten. The issue is we don't really have like another parameter for them because they don't play like Oregon and like UCLA in series play. And so you're not going to see those top matches against the other top 10 big teams, the three that we've kind of identified as the top three teams in the former Pac-12 teams in Ohio State. And so, I mean, they're going to be able to kind of, I think, cruise and maybe pick up good wins. They might drop a game if their pitching doesn't, but they have a really solid lineup against Big Ten teams. It's just where the RPI is and where they can get better wins. It just seems like they're going to be on the road for regionals, and I don't know how good that is. Now, can Jordy Ball carry you through a regional or carry you to a Big Ten like tournament championship? Heck yeah, but it's just asking a lot, and so we'll see. I don't think anyone wants to have Jordy Ball in your like regional or play against Jordy Ball, but that's type of thing. They have to get better innings from Cope and Camison and Maggie. And I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but that's just kind of what they got to do the rest of the way.
All right. So that's the vibe check. I don't see any top 25 questions. So I guess they're all over on the discussion board. So we're just going to kind of move right along. Unless, Brady, you've got any comments on the top 25 that was just released yesterday. I don't see any questions. I'm watching and waiting, but I don't see any questions on the top 25.
I do. I hate talking about other people's polls and whatnot. It's just very odd that last week Clemson had not a single vote in the coaches poll and then had one vote. So that means someone voted on 25th. I mean, Syracuse pitching staff isn't bad. And to do what Clemson did this weekend on the road against them was just absolutely insane. And so we'll see. They play South Carolina either today or tomorrow, and then they host Cal. And I know we always talk about the offense, but Reese Basinger has pitched really well. And so they're going to need her to keep doing that. It's kind of the number 2 spot's a little different. McCovens had her struggles, and then they've tried putting Macy Citron, who's having a good year at the plate as a freshman. But I'm really impressed, for her to make the jump to Power 4 and kind of become the ace. Like, they really needed that with the amount of innings they lost last year.
All right, so that's the top 25 and Clemson, again, a young squad. And I know I spoke to Coach Rittman in Clearwater, and, he was actually pretty pleased with the way they ended that weekend and talked to me. He's like, hey, listen, Tara, we're young. We're just figuring out, but he really, really likes this team. So I think that's another team to keep an eye on. And we'll move right along here to 3 big things. We're going to look ahead to this weekend. Brady, you're going to get in trouble for typing because they get mad at me for typing with the mic on. So you can just mute your mic because they will tell you. 3 big things, midweeks this week. Tuesday, that's today. Stanford at Kentucky, Clemson at South Carolina, LSU at Louisiana. And then Wednesday, Florida at UCF and Oklahoma State at Georgia. Fun midweek here in Georgia. So of this midweek, I mean, there's just been so many midweeks, Brady, and I go back and forth on midweeks. Obviously, team scheduled to potentially help with the RPI, but for me, I'm hearing a lot of sore athletes. I'm hearing a lot of tired athletes from travel. I just go back and forth on these midweeks. But those are some big matchups. Of those, what are you most looking forward to?
I think kind of going into like that South Carolina Clemson game, I think Clemson's still kind of like looking for that marquee type of win with these young girls. And it's going to be interesting, like, South Carolina had a really hard fought like series against Tech, and then like they have to go travel to LSU. So like, how much does that, like, who do they kind of throw? especially just like knowing like they're probably going to need all three of the major arms. And it's a big thing for Clemson. Like, are you going to throw Basinger in this game, even knowing that you have a big series against a good offense in Cal? And then the Georgia Oklahoma State one is very like kind of enticing because, you know, it's a Wednesday. Oklahoma State has a different one. Like, that's a win they probably need RPI wise. So are you going to throw Ruby? Like, and then what does that Georgia offense look like against her as you try to like step forward off of that really good Burzon matchup on Sunday? That's kind of the thing for me is like, is that somewhere where you want to try seeing what Kutz looks like on the road? Potentially what it might look like in a super regional. And so those are just really big questions because I know it's a one-off game and anything can happen, but I'm just very interested to see how Oklahoma State treats it, and they got to get the bats going. I know you guys talked about it, but like Baylor came into this series as one of the most struggling pitching staffs, and for the offense not even get going until midway through the Saturday game, that's rough. But I don't know, maybe they'll find a bat whisperer out east.
So those are the midweek mayhem games, and let's preview what is happening this weekend. Big ACC series, Stanford at Virginia Tech. And for those of you that are listening, head on over to the site because we've got power rankings up on the site. And again, Brady had some great pieces up about this Stanford team and Virginia Tech. Brady, I think this is a big series for both of these squads and really hot. Both Cardinals and Virginia Tech. I'm excited to see this series this weekend and one that I think is going to be really important in the ACC.
Yeah, and it kind of goes off to like the point of like the Stanford pitching staff. They've used all three. They don't really have like an ace. They use all three of them in every single game, basically, just to kind of play matchups. That's how they've kind of gotten through. But you know, it's crazy to say, but it's like Emma Lemley versus the Stanford offense is a like must-see matchup this year. Like, Stanford is hitting the ball well. Like, the young bats are progressing, and I think a lot of like this stat stuff, like maybe you can make a case like the change in stadiums. Like, Stanford's old stadium was very like pitcher friendly, you know, in the football stadium it feels more regular, and so you're getting a lot more home runs. The lineup has just progressed, which is kind of crazy because like even Ava Gall, who was probably their best power hitter last year, just dealt with injury, hasn't really been in the lineup most of the year. And so that's kind of good because when Lemley's on, obviously she's thrown multiple no-hitters this year, but teams have gotten to her this year. I mean, Bama ruled Virginia Tech with her in the circle. Like, she's gettable, but then what does kind of Saturday look like? I mean, they've been kind of piecing that again with like Emma Zone and then Sophia Kielman, who has actually been a really good addition as a closer for Virginia Tech, a transfer from Indiana. But yeah, I mean, I think there could be a lot of runs scored. I'm very interested how, like, you know, Alistair uses the three arms, if like maybe just trying to changing up every time through the lineup against Virginia Tech. But it's a very big parameter for Virginia Tech because if they take this series, then we're kind of looking at a potential Florida State Virginia Tech matchup the last weekend of the regular season to decide like the ACC champ for the regular season.
Yeah, how fun is that? Again, I mean, you just talked about runs in Indiana. We're going to move right in through here to Indiana at Ohio State. Everybody ready for runs here? Indiana, Ohio State. Brady, I know we've been tracking both of those teams this year, but Indiana, Ohio State, that one's going to be a fun one. Talk about the ball leaving the yard.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the Penn State series with Indiana had a 12-11 game. Indiana left the game-tying run at third. Like, they scored 17. Like, this is going to look a lot like the Nebraska series, but probably with even more runs because I think Indiana's lineup top to bottom may be a little bit better than Nebraska's, and the pitching is just has not been there. Copeland's kind of taken a step back, and then they have some freshman arms, and then Taylor Huss, Kentucky transfer. But if there is double digits from both sides in all three games of this series, I would not be shocked. But I mean, Ohio State hit, I think, 11 home runs last week against Michigan State. You know,
I was going to say over under. Fangs got it. Over under on the series. That was like my next comment. Sorry to interrupt you, Brady, but I got you, yeah. Fang. Everybody, put your over unders in the chat on runs. Go ahead.
But yeah, I think this is, you know, maybe if Ohio State can figure things out with like in the circle and see like even if it's like 5 or 6, like limiting to them. But Indiana really needs these wins for their own postseason hopes. They are not very in a good place RPI wise, and this is probably their best shot at getting top tier wins. But I also need to just there's a good chance that if Jordy Ball was doing what she was doing, that Taylor Minnick from Indiana could be in the Big Ten Player of the Year conversation. I think she's hitting over 500 with a ton of power numbers as well. And so that's just kind of crazy. But yeah, we could definitely see 60 runs at least in this series, given what Ohio State's offense has been this year. And just the fact that they're doing it with players who, are junior seniors and barely had any at-bats is still just crazy to me, and what Kumar has done that far.
Are you going over or under 60?
Over.
All right, I'll take the under. Tommy, thanks. Anyone looking for a game to watch? Cal and Howard are about to get underway. Thanks, Tommy, for that. So, again, let's move along here. SEC series of note: Texas at Mississippi State this weekend. South Carolina at LSU. I will be there Saturday, Sunday in Baton Rouge. Kentucky at Arkansas. Tennessee at Oklahoma. Georgia at Alabama. Brady, what a weekend slate in the SEC. What sticks out to you the most?
Definitely the LSU South Carolina series. South Carolina keeps kind of proving themselves and that they are along the best, and they're really going to be in a spot where they can compete for a top 8 seed based on their metrics and whatnot. But hopefully we see Rhodey back in the lineup. I know Chastain said that they expect her to be. I think that depends if we see her today against Clemson. But a lot of teams can go in the Tiger Park and rely on home runs, and you don't really get a ton of home runs in Tiger Park. But South Carolina doesn't hit a ton of bombs. What we saw at Love's Field was just not what they typically do. And so that's going to be an intriguing matchup. And it's just, Berzon's going to bounce back. She's Sydney Berzon. She's one of the best pitchers. But, for LSU to really kind of get up there, I think we do need to see Huebner kind of figure things out with the walks. If you're going to give walks to South Carolina, I think they're going to take advantage of it on the Saturday game. And just kind of South Carolina's pitching has been better since the Oklahoma series, but this LSU lineup is just as lethal. And so that's gonna be a fun matchup to see. Are they going to keep pitching that way? Is it going to just try to be a slugfest? Because if it does get into a slugfest, I'm going to take LSU every time, because I think Berzon's going to limit the South Carolina offense a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you take a look at LSU's pitching staff, I think that they've got the upper hand there. But again, you're seeing a South Carolina team that plays pretty free and is able to grind games out and really make it difficult on opponents. And that's not a team that you want to play. So that's LSU, South Carolina. I think that's pretty much it for the show. Sorry, you guys, that Gray had to jump off. He had a family emergency, but great that Brady could join us. Brady, what's up on the website? Or you have something else?
I do have something else. We'll get on the website. We have SC and ACC power rankings. You guys can go have a sneak peek of the freshman power rankings. I got a question kind of in a space that we kind of do on Twitter randomly with a lot of fans, who's the big names outside of Shoemaker, the OU duo, Tori Edwards. And so I went through and kind of power ranked Power 4 conference freshmen, see all that. And then there's 10 mid-major girls as well. Number 1 on that list is Maddie Johnson from Georgia Southern. I think she's really stood out this year and really competed with a lot of Power 4 teams. But just kind of getting into it, I wanted to touch on the Texas-Mississippi State series. I think we've had our critical thoughts of the pitching behind Sam Landry, and I think it's fair to say that, Tegan Cavan is doing a lot of great things for Texas, but Mac Morgan and Sid Gutierrez have had their struggles lately. Mm-hmm. They kind of fell behind in that Saturday game, and I think I don't think you can slip up against Mississippi State the way you did against Auburn, and so those two really need to be better. We've seen them be good. We know they can reach it. It's just, I don't know if it's a start thing with Sit. She kind of had those issues as a freshman as well. And so I think they really just need to get, Max spinning her down ball a little bit better and just trying to figure out the little things with Sit, who, they were good against the series finale against Florida, but we need more of that if Texas really wants to go get that first title.
Yeah, that is going to be a big series at News Park at Mississippi State. Bark in the Park on Friday. I almost got swayed to go to Mississippi State, Texas, because they're having Bark in the Park on Friday. And that is something that could have swayed me. But for me, heading over to Baton Rouge Saturday and Sunday, we'll be at Georgia Tech watching Oklahoma State on Friday. But yes, if anybody has any questions, you know where to reach Brady and myself. It's pretty easy to reach the two of us. But again, head on over to the site on3.com/softball. Brady, any final thoughts before we head on out of here?
No, it just probably can just be another interesting week. I think, we are starting to figure out some identities. I think one team that is maybe lacking a little bit of identity is Tennessee, and maybe that changes when backs against the wall in Norman. Pickens versus that lineup's going to be fun, and I think it's just going to be the adjustments, and I hope Tennessee's defense can back her up a little bit more because, we've seen OU take every advantage in that. So we'll see.
I think Fang's got a good point here. Can Tennessee win a series that loves on their pitching staff? I think we're going to find out here. Again, I know Brady has had a number of concerns about the offense against top 25 opponents, and I think we're going to see a lot of runs being scored at Love's Field this weekend. I just kind of have that feeling, and going to be another good series. So head on over to the site. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate each and every one of you. Love that we can spend our mornings with you and have a good chat about softball. And thank you for being flexible with us so that we could have the show on Tuesday. Thank you to Gray Robertson, my partner, and to Brady Vernon, who's jumped on within a second to help pick up the slack for a teammate. So appreciate you, Brady. Appreciate everything you do for the site. Please head on over and check out everything that's up on the site. There's some really good tidbits up there right now, and we've got coverage for you the rest of the week. For Tara Henry on Softball America, we'll see you all next week.